The unbreakable empire, the grand chamber of the Valorian dominion, stretched across an entire plateau on their capital world of Zephyros Prime. Crystal pillars rose like frozen lightning, each one carved from the core of a conquered world.
Hi!
Archon Maldar stood at the center, his forearms crossed in a gesture of absolute authority. His silver exoskeleton gleamed under the light of 3 suns that filtered through the transparent dome above. Around him sat the Council of Supremacy, 12 species, each one representing a world that had bent knee to Valorian might. They had ruled the Andromeda sector for 5 centuries without a single defeat. Their military doctrine was studied across 100 star systems. Their technology was unmatched. Their warriors were legendary. Report on territorial expansion, Malthor commanded, his voice resonating through translation devices worn by all council members. General Vorth, a heavily armored reptilian from the Kranich system, activated a holographic display. Stars and planets materialized in the air, each one marked with the crimson symbol of Valorian control. We now command 523 inhabited worlds. Our fleet strength stands at 800 capital ships. No force in known space can challenge us. The council members hummed their approval. War Minister Silkra, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline form, pulsed with satisfaction. Our expansion continues smoothly. The Helion Confederacy surrendered last month without firing a single shot. They simply saw our fleet arrive and understood the futility of resistance. This was how it always went. The Valorian Dominion would arrive at a new system, display their overwhelming force, and wait. Most civilizations understood basic mathematics. They saw the size of the Valorian fleet and made the logical choice to survive rather than fight. Is there anything else? Mulder asked, preparing to end the session. Scout Commander Kreth stepped forward. He was Valorian, like Maldar, but younger and less decorated. His carapace still bore the blue tint of youth rather than the silver of age. Hi, Archon. We have discovered a new species. They call themselves humans. Their planet is designated Terra Inar. Terra Inar Chats. Malthor's mandibles clicked with mild interest. Tell me about these humans. Kreth activated his own display. A blue and green planet appeared, spinning slowly. Terra is located in a remote spiral arm. The humans achieved spaceflight only 80 cycles ago. They have colonized 3 planets in their system and have established mining operations on several moons. Military capability? Asked General Vorth. Primitive by our standards. They use fusion drives for propulsion. Their weapons are primarily kinetic projectiles and basic energy weapons. They have developed nuclear technology, but rarely use it for warfare anymore. Their largest warship carries maybe 200 crew members. Laughter rippled through the council chamber. Minister Selkra pulsed brightly. Children playing with fire. Why do we even discuss them? Kreth's expression remained serious. Because Terra sits at the intersection of 3 major trade routes. Control of their system would reduce travel time between our eastern and western territories by 40%. Additionally, their planet is rich in rare minerals. Mulder considered this. Strategic positioning was always valuable. What is their political structure? Fragmented, Kreth replied. They have a central governing body called the Unified Earth Council, but individual nations retain significant autonomy. They argue constantly over resources, territory, and ideology. They are not truly unified despite their name. This was even better news. A divided species was always easier to absorb. Malthor made his decision with the casual certainty of someone who had never been wrong. Kreth, you will take a diplomatic envoy to Terra. Offer them membership in the Dominion. Explain the benefits of protection, trade, and technological advancement. Give them 3 planetary rotations to accept. And if they refuse, hire. Malthor's mandibles spread in what other species had learned to recognize as a smile. Then you will take a battle group and explain more firmly. Use minimal force. These humans sound interesting enough to preserve as a productive member species. Kreth bowed. It will be done. 3 weeks later, Kreth's diplomatic vessel emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Terra's solar system. sleek ship, designed more for show than combat. But it carried enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. Behind it, maintaining a respectful distance, waited 15 Valorian warships, just in case diplomacy failed. Human detection systems spotted them immediately. Kreth listened to the radio chatter with amusement. The humans were panicking, broadcasting on dozens of frequencies, scrambling their military forces. He had seen this reaction countless times before. "Open a channel on all human frequencies," Kreth ordered his communications officer. "Channel open. Commander." Kreth spoke clearly. His words translated into the primary human language, called English. "People of Terra, I am Scout Commander Kreth of the Valorian Dominion. We come in peace to offer you a place within our great civilization. We wish to establish diplomatic relations with your unified Earth Council. Please respond." The answer came within minutes. A human voice, male and surprisingly calm. "This is Admiral James Chun of the Unified Earth Defense Force. Your presence in our system was not announced or authorized. State your intentions clearly." Kreth appreciated the directness. "Admiral Chun, we wish to meet with your leaders. The Valorian Dominion seeks to extend membership to humanity. We offer protection, advanced technology, and access to galactic trade networks. In return, we ask only for cooperation and adherence to Dominion law." A pause, then Chun's voice returned, harder now. "We need time to consult with our council. How long can you wait? You have 3 standard days to reach a decision. My fleet will remain at this position. We may no harm, but we require an answer." Another pause, longer this time. "Understood. Understood. We will respond within your time frame." The channel closed. Kreth settled back in his command chair, satisfied. This would be simple. The humans would see his fleet, understand the power differential, and make the logical choice. They always did. But as the hours passed, Kreth began noticing something unusual. The humans were not preparing for negotiations. They were preparing for war. Military vessels that had been scattered across the system began converging toward Terra. Space stations activated weapon systems that had been dormant. Civilian ships evacuated to the outer planets. Most telling of all, the humans began broadcasting messages to their population. Kreth listened to one such broadcast with growing confusion. A Yuan female in military uniform stood before cameras, her face set with determination. "Citizens of Earth, we face a choice. Submit to an empire we know nothing about, or stand together as free people. Our ancestors fought for freedom against tyranny for thousands of years. That spirit lives in us. Still, we will not surrender what they died to give us. We will not kneel." The human population responded not with fear, but with resolve. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Factories began producing weapons around Teklak. Scientists worked in teams to analyze every scrap of data about Valorian technology that their sensors could collect. Kreth watched all this with a mixture of fascination and disbelief. These primitives were actually preparing to fight against a force that had conquered 523 worlds, against ships that could level continents, against an empire that had never lost a war. On the 3rd day, Admiral Chun's response arrived. "Commander Kreth, the Unified Earth Council has reviewed your offer. We respectfully decline. Terra will remain independent. We ask that you leave our system peacefully." Kreth's mandibles clicked in genuine surprise. "Admiral Chun, I urge you to reconsider. You do not understand what you are refusing. The Valorian Dominion is the supreme power in this sector. Resistance is futile." "Maybe," Chun replied, "but it is our choice to make. Leave peacefully, or we will defend ourselves." "With what?" Kreth could not help asking. "Your ships cannot penetrate our shields. Your weapons cannot harm our armor. You will die for nothing." Chun's face appeared on the view screen for the first time. He was older, with gray hair and scars that spoke of past battles. His eyes held no fear, only determination. "Commander, Humanity has faced extinction a dozen times in our history. Asteroids, ice ages, plagues, nuclear war. We survived all of it. We survived because we never gave up. If you attack us, you will regret it. The channel closed. Kreth sat in silence, processing what had just happened. No species had ever refused the Dominion's offer and then threatened them. It was insane. It was illogical. It was... Commander, his tactical officer interrupted his thoughts. The humans are moving ships into defensive positions around their planet. They're evacuating their orbital stations. Kreth made his decision. High Archon Mulder had given him authority to use force if necessary. Signal the battle group. We will conduct a limited demonstration. Target one of their military installations. Make sure it is evacuated first. We will show them what they face. The Valorian warships moved into attack formation. Energy weapons charged. Targeting systems locked onto a human naval base on an island in the Pacific Ocean. Scans confirmed the base had been abandoned. Fire! Kreth ordered. A beam of coherent energy lanced down from orbit. It touched the island, and everything on it simply vanished. Water rushed in to fill a crater 2 kilometers wide. The surrounding ocean boiled for several minutes. Broadcast. Broadcast, again, Kreth said. Tell them this is their final warning. The message went out across all human frequencies. For a moment, Kreth thought it had worked. Then the humans responded in a way he would never forget. Every military installation on Terra launched missiles simultaneously, hundreds of them, rising from land and sea, streaking toward his fleet. They were primitive chemical rockets with nuclear warheads. His shields would stop them easily, but the humans were not trying to win. They were sending a message of their own that we will fight. The missiles detonated against Valorian shields in a display of nuclear fire visible from the planet's surface. None penetrated, none caused damage. But every human watching knew their people had struck back against an empire that claimed to be invincible. Kreth stood on his bridge, staring at the tactical display showing the dissipating radiation clouds. For the first time in his military career, he felt something he had never experienced in combat. Uncertainty that these humans were not behaving like any species he had encountered. They did not calculate odds or weigh survival against honor. They simply refused to submit, even when submission was the only logical choice. Commander, his communications officer said quietly. High Archon. Mulder is requesting a status report. Kreth straightened his carapace. He would tell the High Archon the truth. That humanity had refused the Dominion's offer. That they had attacked his fleet with primitive weapons. That they showed no fear despite facing impossible odds. And he would request reinforcements, because something told Kreth that this would not be the simple conquest the Dominion expected. On Terra, in the command center buried deep beneath the Himalayas, Admiral Chun watched the radiation signatures fade from orbit. Around him, representatives from every nation sat in grim determination. They will come in force now, said Commander Yuki Tanaka, of the Japanese Self-Defense Force. We bloodied their nose. They will want revenge. Chun nodded. Then we prepare. We study every second of sensor data from that attack. We learn how their shields work, how their weapons function, and we make them pay for every meter of ground they take. Dr. Marcus Webb, head of Earth's Scientific Council, leaned forward. Admiral, we captured electromagnetic data from their shield emissions. If we can analyze the frequency patterns, we might find a way to disrupt them. How long? Chun asked. Weeks, maybe months. We are working with technology centuries beyond ours. Then you'll better work fast, Doctor, because they're coming. Chun looked around the room at the faces of humanities. Defenders. They were frightened. They were outmatched, but they were not defeated. We have one advantage, Chun said quietly. They think they know how wars are fought. They think there are rules. They have never fought someone who refuses to lose. In orbit. Above Terra, Kreth's fleet held position, waiting for orders. Below them, 6 billion humans prepared for a war they could not win but refused to avoid. The Valorian Dominion had conquered 523 worlds over 5 centuries. They had faced every imaginable military challenge. They had perfected the art of warfare, but they had never fought humanity. And they were about to learn that the mightiest empire in the galaxy had finally met a species that simply did not care about odds, logic, or survival. The humans cared only about freedom, and they would fight for it until their last breath. Asterisk. The price of underestimation. 6 months had passed since the Dominion first arrived at Terra. 6 months that had transformed what should have been a simple conquest into a grinding war of attrition that shocked the entire galaxy. High Archon Malthor stood before the Council of Supremacy, and for the first time in his long career, he looked tired. "Explain these losses," he demanded, his forearms gesturing at the holographic casualty reports floating in the chamber. 37 warships damaged or destroyed, over 2,000 soldiers killed, supply lines disrupted, and Terra remains on. Scout Commander Kreth, now promoted to War Commander after the previous commander had been killed in an ambush, stepped forward. His blue carapace had darkened significantly in just 6 months. "High Archon, the humans do not fight like any species we have encountered. They refuse to engage in direct fleet battles where our superiority would be decisive. Instead, they strike from hiding, retreat, and strike again." General Vorth slammed a heavy fist on his console. "This is cowardice, not warfare. They hide among civilians, use suicide attacks, and ignore all conventions of honorable combat." Kreth's mandibles clicked in what might have been frustration or grudging respect. "With respect, General, they are fighting to survive. They use every advantage available to them, no matter how unconventional. And they learn from every encounter." War Minister Selkra pulsed angrily within her crystalline containment. "How can primitives learn so quickly? They should be overwhelmed by our technology." "They adapt," Kreth replied simply. He activated a new holographic display showing a human military base. "Observe this facility. When we first attacked human installations, they were fixed targets, easy to destroy from orbit. Now, they build underground. They disperse their forces. They move constantly. We can destroy buildings, but we cannot find the enemy." He changed the display to show a battlefield analysis. "In the first month, our soldiers could walk through human defenses with minimal casualties. Now, humans have learned to target our shield generators specifically. They use shaped charges and electromagnetic pulses. They studied our technology and found its weaknesses." Malthor leaned forward. "You are telling me that in 6 months, these primitives have learned to counter technology we have perfected over centuries. Not counter completely, higher, but they have learned enough to make our victories costly. Every piece of equipment we lose, they study. Every battle we fight, they analyze. They share information across their entire species, instantly using their planetary network." Another display showed captured Valorian equipment. "They are reverse engineering our technology. Their scientists work around the clock. They have already developed crude energy shields based on our designs. Their weapons, while still inferior, now use plasma-based systems similar to ours." The council chamber fell silent. This was unprecedented. Conquered species typically took decades to understand Valorian technology, and even then only under direct supervision. Humans had done it in months while fighting a war. "There is more," Kreth continued, his voice slower now. "Other species in the Dominion are watching. They see humans resisting us. They see that the Valorian Dominion can be hurt. We have already detected increased resistance activities in the Helion and Chronox systems. Small acts of sabotage, delayed shipments, missing supplies." War Minister Selkra blazed brightly. "This cannot be tolerated. If Terra becomes a symbol of resistance, our entire empire is at risk." Malthor's mandibles spread in a grim expression. Then we end this. No more limited operations. Deploy the destroyer fleet. 50 capital ships. 10,000 elite soldiers. We will break the humans completely and broadcast their defeat across every system we control. General Vorth nodded approvingly. And the human population? High Archon. Do we continue attempting to preserve them? Malthor was silent for a long moment. The Dominion had always tried to keep conquered populations intact. Workers, soldiers, administrators, all were valuable resources. But humanity had proven too dangerous, too unpredictable. The destroyer fleet has authorization to use any force necessary. If the humans will not submit, then Terra will serve as an example of what happens to those who resist. On Terra, in a bunker complex beneath the ruins of what had once been New York City, Captain Elena Vasquez studied reconnaissance data with her strike team. She was 32 years old, former Special Forces, now commanding one of humanity's most effective guerrilla units. Around her sat 12 soldiers, each one a veteran of dozens of engagements against Valorian forces. We have confirmation, Elena said, pointing to the holographic display. The Valorians established a major supply depot on Ganymede, one of Jupiter's moons. It is heavily defended, but our intelligence suggests they are storing advanced technology. Their shield generators, weapons, even captured alien tech from other species they have conquered. Sergeant Marcus Cole, a massive man with burns covering half his face from a plasma weapon, leaned forward. How heavily defended are we talking, Captain? 20 warships in orbit. Ground installations with automated defenses. At least 500 Valorian soldiers. Elena smiled grimly. They think it is impregnable. It probably is, said Lieutenant Yuki Tanaka. They're demolitions expert. We have never attempted a raid on anything that large. Elena changed the display, showing a captured Valorian transport ship, which is exactly why they won't expect it. We captured this transport 3 weeks ago. Dr. Webb's team has reprogrammed its identification codes. As far as Valorian systems are concerned, this is a legitimate supply vessel. Understanding dawned on her team's faces. Marcus grinned, despite the danger. We're going to walk right through their front door. Exactly. 12 of us, dressed in captured Valorian armor. We dock, breach the facility, grab everything we can carry, plant explosives, and extract before they realize what happened. Yuki studied the layout of the depot. The explosives will need to be massive to destroy a facility that size, and we will need at least 10 minutes to properly set them, which is why I am going with you, said a voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Dr. Marcus Webb enter, carrying a metallic case. The elderly scientist looked completely out of place among the battle-hardened soldiers, but his presence commanded respect. He had been instrumental in reverse engineering Valorian technology. With respect, Doctor, this is a combat operation. Elena began. Webb set the case on the table and opened it, revealing a spherical device covered in alien circuitry. This is a Valorian antimatter charge. We captured it from one of their disabled ships. I am the only person who knows how to arm it properly. If you want to destroy that depot, you need me there. Elena wanted to argue, but she knew he was right. Fine. But you follow my orders exactly? Understood. Webb nodded. I am a scientist, Captain, not a fool. I will do as you say. 2 days later, the captured Valorian transport approached Ganymede. Elena sat in the pilot's chair, her hands steady. Despite her racing heart, behind her, her team waited in full Valorian armor. The disguise was not perfect. Humans were smaller than Valor, but it might fool automated systems and casual observation. Approaching defense perimeter, she said quietly. Automated systems are scanning us. Warning lights flashed on her console. For a terrible moment, Elena thought they had been detected. Then the lights turned green. We are through, Marcus breathed. They accepted our codes. The transport docked at the supply depot without incident. Elena led her team out, moving with the confident stride of Valorian soldiers. Other Valorians passed them in the corridors, too focused on their own tasks to question the new arrivals. Tech storage is 3 levels down, Elena whispered through their private comm channel. Yuki Marcus, you are with me. The rest of you, set up a perimeter and watch for trouble. They descended through the facility, using service elevators. The deeper they went, the more impressive the depot became. Vast chambers filled with equipment, weapons, and technology from dozens of conquered species. This was not just a supply point, it was a treasure trove of the Dominion's accumulated military might. There, Yuki pointed to a secured chamber, protected by an energy barrier. Inside, Elena could see shield generators, advanced weapons, and data cores. That is what we came for. Marcus pulled out a captured Valorian security bypass device. It took him 90 seconds to disable the barrier. 90 seconds where Elena expected alarms to sound at any moment, but the facility remained quiet. They entered the chamber and began loading equipment into portable containers. Elena grabbed a shield generator small enough to carry, along with several data cores that might contain invaluable intelligence. "Captain," one of her perimeter team whispered urgently. "We have movement. Valorian patrol head in your way." "How long?" 2 minutes. Elena looked at Dr. Webb, who was carefully arming the antimatter charge. "Doctor, I need 5 minutes. This DAVIC is extremely complex. If I rush it, we might just give them a small explosion instead of destroying the entire facility." Elena made a decision. "Everyone grab what you can carry and move to the extraction point. Doctor, you have 3 minutes. After that, we leave, with or without you." Her team moved with practiced efficiency, each soldier carrying as much captured technology as possible. Elena stayed with Webb, her weapon trained on the corridor entrance. "Patrol entering your level," came the warning. 2 minutes. Dr. Webb's hands moved with surprising steadiness for someone his age. "Almost there, Captain. Just need to synchronize the detonation sequence." Heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor, Valorian voices speaking in their clicking, mandible language. Elena switched her weapon to full power. 1 minute. "Done," Webb announced, closing the case containing the armed antimatter charge. "We have 10 minutes before it detonates." They ran. Behind them, the Valorian patrol finally noticed something was wrong. Alarms began to sound. Energy weapons discharged. Elena and Webb sprinted through corridors while the facility erupted into chaos around them. "All teams, extract now," Elena ordered. "The package is armed." Her soldiers fought their way back to the transport, engaging surprised Valorian defenders. The element of surprise was lost, but they had accomplished their primary objective. Marcus provided covering fire as Elena and Webb reached the ship. "Everyone on board," Elena shouted, sealing the airlock. "Punch it." The transport's engines fired, tearing away from the docking clamp with enough force to damage both ships. Valorian fighters launched to intercept, but Elena had planned for this. Human ships that had been hiding among Jupiter's many moons suddenly appeared, engaging the Valorian defenders. 4 minutes to detonation, Webb announced calmly, as if he were discussing the weather rather than an antimatter explosion. The transport weaved through enemy fire, its shields ironically of Valorian, dizine-absorbing hits. One of their escort fighters exploded, but the rest kept the Valorians busy. 2 minutes. They cleared the immediate defense perimeter. Behind them, Valorian warships were beginning to realize the real threat was not the escaping transport, but something inside the depot itself. 1 minute. I recommend we get significantly farther away. Elena pushed the engines to maximum. The transport was not built for this kind of speed, and she could hear systems protesting. But they were pulling away from Ganymede now, moving into the relative safety of Jupiter's gravitational field. 10 seconds. The antimatter charge detonated. On their view screen, Elena watched as a sphere of pure annihilation expanded from the depot's location. It consumed everything: the facility, the orbiting ships, even the surface of Ganymede itself was scarred by the blast. The energy release was visible from Earth, a new star briefly flaring in their night sky. When the light faded, the Valorian supply depot was simply gone. Along with it went 20 warships, 500 soldiers, and irreplaceable stores of military equipment. Marcus stared at the view screen in awe. We actually did it. Elena allowed herself a tired smile. We did. And every piece of tech we captured will help our scientists improve our defenses. News of the raid spread across both human and Valorian communication networks within hours. For humanity, it was a massive morale victory. For the Valorian Dominion, it was a shocking defeat that proved humans could strike at the heart of their military infrastructure. But the raid had consequences beyond the immediate tactical victory. In systems across the Dominion, conquered species watched the broadcasts and whispered among themselves. If humans could do this, what else was possible? On the planet Helios Prime, a world subjugated by the Valorians for 80 years, a resistance cell received the news with barely contained excitement. Their leader, an insectoid being named Zethrix, addressed his followers in a secret gathering. For decades, we have accepted Valorian rule because we believed resistance was futile, Zethrix said, his compound eyes reflecting the light of a hidden projector showing footage of the Ganymede raid. We believed their power was absolute, but these humans have shown us something different. They have shown us that the Dominion can bleed. Similar conversations happened across a dozen worlds. Small acts of sabotage increased. Workers, slowed. Production. Information about Valorian military movements mysteriously found its way to human intelligence networks. The empire that had stood unchallenged for 5 centuries was developing cracks. High Archon Maldar received these reports with growing fury. This cannot continue, he told War Commander Kreth. The humans have become more than a military threat. They are a symbol, an inspiration for every species that has ever chafed under our rule. Kreth nodded gravely. The destroyer fleet is ready. High Archon, 50 capital ships, 10,000 elite soldiers. We will crush the humans and broadcast their defeat. The other species will remember why they fear us. No, Mulder said, his mandibles spreading in determination. 50 ships are not in a hug. I will lead this campaign personally with the Grand Armada. 100 ships, 20,000 soldiers. We will not simply defeat the humans. We will erase them so thoroughly that no trace of their resistance remains. The decision sent shockwaves through the Dominion's command structure. The Grand Armada had not been deployed in over a century. It represented the full might of Valorian military power. Its deployment meant total war. On Terra, Admiral Chun received intelligence about the incoming armada with grim acceptance. 100 ships, he said to his command staff. They are bringing everything they have. Dr. Webb looked up from his analysis of the captured technology. Admiral, even with everything we have learned, everything we have built, we cannot defeat a force that large. Our fleet numbers 60 ships total, and most of those are converted civilian vessels with improvised weapons. Elena Vasquez, now promoted to major after her successful raid, spoke up. Then we do not fight them in space. We let them come to Terra, and we make them bleed for every city, every town, every street. Chun nodded slowly. A ground war, urban, combat, where their technological superiority matters less. Exactly. We evacuate as many civilians as possible to the underground shelters. We turn every building into a fortress. We use the tactics that have worked for 6 months, but on a planetary scale, Yuki Tanaka added. And we use the captured technology. We have been mass-producing shield generators and energy weapons based on Valorian designs. They are not as good as the originals, but they work. We can arm every soldier with equipment that can actually hurt them. Chun looked around the room at humanity's defenders. They were exhausted, outnumbered, and facing impossible odds. But they were not defeated. All right, we prepare for their arrival. Evacuate all non-essential personnel. Fortify our major cities. And we send one final message to the Valorian Dominion. What message, sir? Elena asked. Chun's expression hardened, that if they want Terra, they will have to take it from our cold, dead hands. The Valorian Grand Armada arrived 3 weeks later. 100 massive warships emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, a display of military might designed to inspire awe and terror. High Archon, Malthus stood on the bridge of his flagship, the pride of Eloria, and looked down at the blue and green planet that had caused his empire so much trouble. "Open a channel to the humans," he ordered. Admiral Chun's face appeared on the view screen, transmitted from somewhere deep within Terra's defensive network. "High Archon Malthus, I presume—" "Admiral Chun, I offer you one final chance to surrender. You have fought bravely, but this ends now. Submit to Dominion authority, and your species will be spared. Continue to resist, and we will reduce your planet to ash." Chun's expression never changed. "We have heard these threats before, High Archon. We do not frighten easily. Then you will die. All of you. Is your pride worth the extinction of your entire species? Our freedom is worth any price," Chun replied. "You will find that humans would rather die on their feet than live on their knees." Mulder felt a flash of genuine anger. How could they not understand? How could they throw away their lives for something as abstract as freedom? "You are fools. Warriors know when they are beaten." "Then I guess we are not warriors," Chun said with a slight smile. "We are just humans who refuse to quit. Come and take our world. High Arch, we will be waiting." The channel closed. Maldar stood in silence for a moment, then turned to his command staff. "Begin orbital bombardment. Target their military installations, their factories, their spaceports. Show them what it means to defy the Valorian Dominion." The Grand Armada opened fire. Energy beams and kinetic weapons rained down on Terra's surface. Military bases exploded. Factories melted. Spaceports were reduced to craters. It was a display of destructive power that should have broken any species. Wiltor resists, but the humans had spent 3 weeks preparing. Their most valuable assets were already moved underground or dispersed. The installations being destroyed were mostly empty. Sacrificial targets meant to absorb the first wave of bombardment. And as the Valorian fleet focused on orbital strikes, human ships launched from hidden positions throughout the solar system. They were outgunned and outnumbered, but they had learned from 6 months of combat. They used asteroids for cover, attacked from multiple angles, and focused their fire on isolated ships. The battle for Terra had begun, and neither side knew how it would end. But the humans had already proven one thing: the mightiest empire in the galaxy had finally met a species that simply refused to lose. Hierarch and Malthus watched, human ships darting between his fleet like insects attacking a giant. They were inflicting minimal damage, but they were not running. They were not surrendering. They were fighting with everything they had. For the first time in his long career, Malthus felt something he had never experienced before. Doubt. Asterisk.